Welcome to the app Weights on a Scale. This app can be used in the service of a wide range of topics and in a wide range of age groups. Let's see how it works. We'll first use only the gray weights. Let's drag one out. And we see we have a weight with the number 5. Now, let's change this to 7. Just click outside and bring in a 7. Now, let's bring in a 10. Notice that when the weight is outside the area of the scale, the outline of the weight is thin. But when we place it in the area of the scale and then let go, the outline turns thick. And when we have weights on both sides, notice that the button up here, check, appears. Okay, let's click it. And we see that 7 plus 5 is more than 10. Note that the size of the weights are the same even though their values are different, and we did this for reasons of convenience. For example, a weight weighing 100 would simply be too large and not easy to handle. So we can ask in class, what weight do we need to add so that both sides will have in total the same weight? And the answer is, of course, 2. Let's click Reset, set this to 2, bring the weight in, and click Check. And we see the equal sign and a smiley. Now, let's click Reset. Take the 2 and drag it out of the screen and let go. Now, we'll create a 2 on the white weight and place it here. And as we see, the white weight is for variables. If we use a variable, we should click Hide so we won't see the value over here. And we can click Check. And then we can just ask the students, what's the value of this weight? After they give their answer, we just click Expose Variable. Now, let's move on to some examples we've prepared in advance. Next page. Now, this is an interesting question because there's more than one way to solve it. One way is to find the total weight on each side. But we can emphasize another method by moving the weights around just a little. So, okay, let's bring this up, and this up, and these down, and this up. Now, of course, this does not completely accord with the laws of physics. The weights are suspended in midair, but the goal here is to convey mathematical concepts, and so these abstract scales allow this. Now, we can see more clearly that on both sides we have 4 plus 5. Besides this, on one side we have 3 plus 2, and on the other, a 6. So all we have to do is compare the sum of 5 to 6, and so we know that this sum must be larger. So we're introduced to the idea of weights canceling themselves out, and this can be viewed as an introduction to algebraic thinking. Let's click Check and move on to the next example. Here again, we have the option of doing the calculation on each side. We have here repeated addition, which is multiplication. So we have 6 times 3 and 3 times 6. And again, we can know this is equal even without doing the calculation, which is due to the commutative property. We can also order the weights a little differently, like this. And we can see in yet another way why the sums are the same. 3 and 3 equals 6, 3 and 3 equals 6, and 3 and 3 equals 6. So all the weights cancel out. Next example. And again, we can do the calculation or see a small shortcut. If a 5 would be transferred from the 85 to the 35, we would have 80 plus 40, which is exactly what we have here. Let's click Check and move on. And we see a simple question with variables. Let's click Check, and so we see the variable must be 7. Let's click Add Weights and change this to 8. Click outside, and we see this changes the variable that's already on the screen. Let's click Reset and check again. And we see the app takes this into account. If we bring in another variable, we see it's also 8, so all the variables on the screen will always have the same value. So questions with 2 different variables are not suited to this particular app. Let's move on and click Check. And as usual, we have a shortcut to get the answer. The sides are equal, even though the 35 is 2 less than the 37. This means that the variable must compensate for this and be 2 more than 27. Let's expose the variable, and indeed, it's 29. Next example. Here we can use the concept of cancellation, but this time instead of canceling off numbers or canceling off two identical variables, let's change the positions to make this a little more clear. So whatever the variable is, these cancel out, and we're left with a question 15 plus what equals 22? And the answer is 7. Let's move on to the last example, and we'll click Check. And we see that this sum is larger, so the question is, what could the variable be? Let's reorder these. When we move a weight, the scales are reset. So let's go ahead and click Check again. So now we can say that this weight weighs 3 more than this one. So for the sides to be equal, the variable would have to be 3 less from this one. So that would be 20. But since this side is heavier, any number larger than 20 could work. Let's click Expose Variable. And in this case, the answer was 100. So these are the tools, and we showed some examples of how they can be used in class. And we hope you enjoy creating your own questions that are adapted to the specific needs of your students. Thanks for watching.